Hey guys, and welcome to Leaguecraft 101. Today I'm going to be talking about laning phase in bot lane, which is the most nuanced and complex of all the lanes. You should watch episodes 1, 2, 3, and 13 before starting, as they're assumed knowledge for this episode. So every champion has a zone around them that represents their area of influence. In this clip, you'll notice that I'm at a 2v1 zone disadvantage. I can't use trading stance here, because if I get hooked, Lucian is too far away to help. However, if we were to move Lucian over here, well now we have 2 zones versus 2 zones, so it doesn't matter if I get hooked. Lucian can retaliation trade and put equal damage down on the Jinx. Now let's say Blitzcrank has no hook. Well in this case, I'm 1 versus 1, and support outtrades ADC with runes. So I should go for trading stance here. So in this new scenario, let's assume that I have power chord and Q. It's 1v1 and I'll definitely outtrade the Jinx. Should I go for trading stance here or not? Well the answer is no, because the bush extends the zone of anybody in there, so actually it's 2 zones versus 1, so I'm outnumbered and I shouldn't go for the trade. But what about here? Well here I should, because I can hide behind this minion, and they can't kill the minion, so I can't get hooked, and Blitzcrank's zone is nullified. But what if Blitz had mana to use W and Q? Jinx was Draven, and there are no minions behind me. Well now I shouldn't, because I don't have summoners, so Blitz can W past the minion line, get a near guaranteed hook, and Draven will kill me for sure. So this is the general way that you should analyze every trade that you're doing in bot lane, for both ADC and support. Support however has the liberty to consider trading stance all the time, because they don't have to CS. If you're playing ADC, just follow what the support is doing. So if your support is playing passive, you play passive. And if your support is playing aggressive, then you play aggressive. So in order to transition to the next section, we first need to talk about bot lane matchups. These are very dynamic because a bad AD matchup can be made up for by a good support matchup, and vice versa. Generally speaking, a matchup is decided by the support, with one exception, which is that Caitlyn lanes are predominantly poke lanes. Though Caitlyn can also do pretty well in all-ins by trap chaining with CC, or just hooking someone through a trap line. Cait Blitz is especially potent at this. So certain matchups either have an edge, which is a 60% chance to win, or a big edge, which is 70% chance to win. And while 10% increase in win percent seems small, 70% compared to 30% is a 2.3 to 1 favorite, while 60% to 40% is only a 1.5 to 1 favorite, which is a massive difference. Like, even though Gary Oak's Blastoise is super effective against Ashe's Charizard, it's not like Ashe's Charizard just gives up or flames his team or anything. So generally speaking, sustain lanes have an edge against poke lanes. Hook and all-in has an edge against poke and a big edge against sustain. Disruption has an edge against hook and all-in, and finally poke has a big edge against disruption. As I discussed in episode 3, lane control, which is having more minions, is what allows you to use trading stance. So in this clip, we're up against Caitlyn Thresh. So first we check if it's a losing lane. According to our chart, Sona has sustain, which has an edge against Caitlyn with poke. But Thresh with hook has an edge against Sona. So the lane is pretty even, and we're safe to push and fight for lane control without being so overpowered that we're going to get frozen on. Remember from episode 13, if we have this same lane in a losing matchup against an all-in lane like Leona Draven, pushing is the worst thing we can do, because the wave gets frozen and Leona can threaten trading stance E on every minion with 100 to 0 kill pressure. So lane control is really important because it allows you to alleviate ranged advantages. When you're pushing a wave into them, they have to match your autos on the minions, which means they can't use their long range autos to harass you. Once you've established lane control, even though they have a range advantage, it doesn't matter, because if they try to harass you, they're going to get aggroed by minions. This means you can hop in for trading stances anytime you have a zone advantage, or the zones are even. So while I generally advocate playing poke sustain characters that are good at trading stance, like Sona, Lulu, Bard and Nami, I understand that there are other supports in League of Legends, and people sometimes like to play those. I detailed earlier how to play a poke lane, but here I'm going to talk about playing a Janna or Soraka lane who don't have that much damage by themselves. These supports in particular use the ADC as a proxy to lane. so the ADC should try to get into trading stance as long as the zones are even, and they generally should choose to zone with trading stance rather than trade by positioning slightly in front of the dying minion instead of on top of it. This is because in this lane, you don't have much kill potential, so your lane win condition is to deny CS, not whittle them down and kill them. So in this lane, I'm playing Lucian with Soraka, and every time I can get a one-on-one trading stance zone with Jinx, I should take it, and I should remember to keep lane control as well. Every time there's a minion dying, I can use trading stance and either take a lot of trades or zone Jinx off the CS. Take note of how sustain has a big edge over poke, so after applying push and trade to get lane control early, I notice Jinx's wave is pushing towards us, so since we have lane control, we can choose the third lane control option, which is freeze, and then zone them off the wave while continually sustaining up. This also has the added benefit of making us harder to gank by pulling the lane to our side. And then at 5 minutes, I already have double her CS. And take note in this example of how I opted to zone with trading stance over trading because we have such low kill potential. It's difficult for us to convert a low health person into a kill with this lane. So the second laning style is when you're playing either a hook all-in or a disruption lane. These lanes generally have a big cooldown such as Leona E or an Alistar combo. So against another hook or all-in lane, you want to position your support in front to block hook attempts. The enemy doesn't like to hook Alistar into their team, which gives the ADC safety to farm. However, as an all-in lane against a sustain or poke lane, you should carry a lot of potions to weather harass. The most important thing is to stay at high health because you want to all-in. I would recommend taking Ignite against sustain lanes because you want to one-shot them, and leaving them on 10% health doesn't do anything because within 30 seconds they're going to be full health again. As a disruption lane, poke is a big edge matchup against you because you have less kill potential than an all-in or hook lane. On top of that, you're usually unable to win push and trade phase to get lane control because you're usually melee and you have no sustain or shields pre-6, with the exception of Alistar. However, these lanes are still winnable with some different tactics. So there are 6 general methods to kill with disruption and hook lanes. The first is timing attacks with level 2 and level 6 all-ins. In this clip, watch how Afro cleverly saves his Targon stacks to get a quick level up and gets a kill. They manage to use the level 2 all-in to great effect to kill the Lucian. Level 6 all-in uses the same strategy, but just does it at level 6. The second method is through vision denial. Generally speaking, the best place for you to be standing as one of these lanes is in the bush, and you want to keep the bush pinked or swept. When they come to ward the bush, or even if it's warded and they harass you in it, you can use your gap closer to get on them. You're extremely likely to get camped when using this strategy, so be careful when the jungler's Mia, but use it very aggressively when the jungler shows somewhere else. Alternatively, you can pink bushes that they're likely to ward, and fake recall to catch them when they come to ward. In this clip, we push the wave out, indicating that we want to recall, and recall in the open. Since they think we're recalled, they're more likely to take unsafe actions like face-checking bushes, which allows us to mind game them, stay instead, and then kill them when they come to ward. The third is if you have an ability that penetrates through the wave, you can use trading stance to land them. Out of the Disruptor and the all-in lanes, you can only really do it with Leona E, Thresh, Flay, and Alistar combo. Although you can also zone them off minions with the trading stance by threatening to hook and just not throwing it. Remember that if you use your hook and you miss, your zone becomes really small and irrelevant, so it's good to just zone with trading stance, deny them the CS, and keep your zone for as large as possible. Fourthly, since you're naturally going to get pushed in with one of these lanes, your lane is very gankable. And unsurprisingly, an all-in lane synergizes excellently with a gank, and you can just walk up to them or flash forwards with a gank. Remember to ignite first and ping the main target because you want to cut heals. You should also almost always use your guaranteed ability first. A rookie mistake is going for a 70% hook attempt. Sure, 70% of the times you're going to hit, but that means 30% of the time you're either going to miss or they're going to flash away. Instead, you can do a flash flay box into guaranteed hook after they flash. Or if you're playing someone like Leona, you can flash Q to get an instant stun, and then get a guaranteed ulti stun on them, which will result in guaranteed kills. You don't want to risk them flashing away when you fire your hook or your E. Don't be afraid to flash, it's well worth trading a flash for a kill, and especially for 2 kills. The other rookie mistake is to fire your skill shot as soon as you get into range. You want to corner the enemy and force out their dashes before throwing your skill shot. In this clip, I'm playing Morgana and approaching the Vayne who has no flash. Now many players are going to throw their Q as soon as they get into range, which is just going to get dodged by Tumble. If I had ulti, I would walk up and ulti her first, because once she's rooted by the ult and can't dodge, she can't dodge the bind. However, since I don't have ulti, my plan is to get close enough that a binding will not miss, even if she uses Tumble. Or I can force out her Tumble by auto-attacking her, and then bind her. Instead of going early, Lucian should have kept his distance until I binded her, and then E in after she CC'd, because the Vayne can kill the Lucian here, and she almost manages to do so. And as a result, I had to waste a panic exhaust, which I otherwise wouldn't have needed to do if Lucian played this correctly. So the 5th tip is to hook through dying minions. Here the minion is dying, so Blitz thinks he's safe. I intended to throw hook a little bit earlier, but I don't know, I had a brain fart or something. And this can catch people really off guard when they think they're protected by minions, but they actually aren't. The 6th tip is applicable to every lane type, which is to all in when you kill off their creep wave, such as dashing forwards on Lucian, or using a long-ranged ability like Leona ulti. They can't counter all in against your minions unless they're stronger than you, which is unlikely because if that was the case, then you wouldn't have lane control to begin with and you wouldn't be able to push the wave. In this clip, we can all in Vayne Karma off the end of the wave. They try to fight us back, but halfway through they realize we have a huge wave incoming and they have to turn around. At this point, it's too late for them to retreat, so we can just pick up an exit kill on Karma. You can also apply similar strategies with Braum by jumping to a minion and landing a Q into ulti as soon as the enemy wave dies. Although this strategy is just mostly used with ADCs, with Ezreal and Lucian dashing forwards or Tristana jumping on them. So the 2 final tips I'll give for playing bot laning phase is for both the ADC and support to buy a pink every time they back, and to back at the same time. Backing at the same time is extremely important so that you coordinate your item spikes and you can ward and de-ward together. Finally, I would highly suggest watching 3 parts of Lecture 15. While it's 2 years old and a lot more verbose than these episodes, the information is still as relevant as ever, and it was too hard for me to get modern day footage for a lot of the concepts because I don't play as much anymore. The 3 parts in priority order are watching enemy support, then respect, and finally playing skirmishes. The rest I've covered elsewhere in other episodes, or I'll be covering in future episodes. So thanks for watching, guys. I would wager my left nut that a lot of this information will be new for most of you, so watch it multiple times and take notes if you have to. Also just print out the support matchup chart. I also recently set up fan funding, which you can access by going to channel page and hitting the support button. Obviously I don't make much per video, so every little bit makes my time spent on making videos more worthwhile. You can donate as little as $1 to show your appreciation if this series has helped you. So until next time, guys, remember to like and subscribe. Peace.